Excel is a really great tool for building dashboards out of charts and graphs, so let's go inside and check it out.
Excel is a great multi-purpose tool, especially if you're going to build dashboards. And if you don't have access to SAS or Tableau or one of those more advanced analytical programs, then Excel is definitely the way to go. I remember having to manually update my graphs every time I got new data, and you might ask yourself, well, why would you do it that way? And the answer is pretty simple. It's because it's really the only way that I knew how at the time. But hopefully this video is going to give you some tips and tricks that I've kind of learned along the way to really make your job a lot easier. So the first thing that we're going to need is a data set, and I covered in a previous video how to import that data from an external source by setting up a connection between Excel and that external source. So in this video, really we're going to cover the actual aggregation portion of it and the actual analysis portion of it using pivot tables. The link to that previous video with the data connection is going to be found in the description down below, so you can go ahead down there and check that one out. So when we're done with this video, you have all the tips and tools you need in order to just hit the refresh button, sit back and relax and be done analyzing your data. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Since I'm a huge baseball fan, we're going to go ahead and use some Major League Baseball data as our data set. This will be team data by year, and we're looking specifically at home runs, stolen bases, and average. So we're going to highlight columns A through F, go up to the Insert tab, and then go to Pivot Table. And then our data range is already highlighted, so we're just going to go ahead and hit OK, and this is going to add it into a new sheet. Also, I just want you to take note that each team has 5 different data points, one from each year. So now that the Pivot Table screen is pulled up, we can see the Pivot Table fields that we have, and this corresponds to each of the columns from our data set. And down here we have filters, rows, columns, and values. And the rows and columns, I want you to think of those kind of like an outline. So if you were to think of an outline, the first thing that you would add on there would be the biggest category or the major category. In this case, we can go ahead and we can add the league down to row, and you can see that there's 2 leagues. And now when I go and add the team under here, now you can see that it's grouped first off by league and then by team. And we're not going to look at the league right now. I just kind of wanted to show you how that kind of works like an outline. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this so you can see that how they're grouped by the league, and I'll unminimize it. And then we'll go ahead and get rid of the league because we don't need that right now. We just want to aggregate it by team. So we group it in by team. So right now, if we were to go ahead and add the home runs in here, you can see that remember I mentioned that there was 5 data points per team, one for each year from 2015 through 2019. So it defaults to the count of how many there are for each team. So it grouped them by team, and for each team there was 5 years worth of data, so that's why the count is 5. And so now we're going to go ahead and click on View Field Settings. So we're going to left click on Count. That's View Field Settings is going to pop up. We're going to go ahead and click that, and then we're going to go ahead and hit the average. And what this is going to do is going to give it's going to give the 5-year average for each team. And so and if we want, we can right click on the actual data and go to Sort, and then go largest to smallest, and then it'll go in order. And anytime the data is refreshed, it's automatically going to rank it in that order. Now I like to use a filter, and the reason I like to do that is because of the blank down here, and that'll eliminate the blanks. And if you were to go right here and if you were to go up here to where it says row labels and select or deselect the blank, if for whatever reason another item was added to this list, it would not auto update. So I recommend eliminating the blank by using a filter. So in this case, we can go ahead and we can use the league, and we're just going to go up to where it says all, click the little arrow. We're going to select multiple, and we're just going to uncheck the blank here because now this one will automatically update. So if another team is ever added, we can go ahead and refresh, and it'll get added to the list and it won't be left off. So that's definitely another little tip that I learned because my data wouldn't refresh and I was missing data, and I was like, what the heck's going on? And it turned out that manually selected the data and it wasn't updating. So hopefully you guys can learn from my pains. So I'm going to go ahead and add a filter for the current year to separate that out from the previous 4 historic years, since the current year hasn't completed yet. In addition, I'm going to go ahead and change the league to just the NL. This way it makes the data set smaller and easier to deal with. So let's go ahead and choose. We already chose NL, so we're going to go ahead and select just the current year. And then we're going to go ahead and duplicate this pivot table. So we're just going to highlight columns A and B. Control C. I like to separate by a column, and then go ahead and paste. And there you can see that we have a duplicate. So then all we have to do is remove the average out of here, and then go ahead and add in stolen bases, or excuse me, remove the home runs and add in stolen bases. And then again, we're going to left click, go to value field, click average, and then we're done with that. So now you can see that we have 6 graphs, 3 of them corresponding to 2019, and then 3 corresponding to the other 4 years. So now we're going to go ahead and add in the chart for each one. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on the first pivot table, and we're going to go to Analyze, and then we're going to go to Pivot Chart, and then we're going to go ahead and select the graph that we want. So in this case, we will go ahead and go with this default column graph and hit OK. And there you can see that we have the column graph. So I like to remove this right here, and then we can also change the title to 2019 home run. And we're going to go ahead and hide all these buttons up here. So we're going to go ahead and hide the buttons. So we're going to left click on them and then go to hide all buttons on chart. And then we'll go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. And then we can also change the graph type or the design. So we go to design, and we can add in all different types of effects to it, or different pre-made types of graphs. So for right now, we'll go ahead and go with this one. And then also, I just like to go ahead and delete these bars in here. It makes the graphs look a lot cleaner. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and add in a new sheet to add in all of our charts that we're going to make for them. So we'll go ahead and create a new sheet, and we'll just rename this one Graphs, rename Graphs, and then we're going to go ahead and rename the other one Pivot Tables, or Pivots, rename Pivots. Alright, and then we're just going to Control X, which is going to cut it, go to the graphs, and hit Control V. And then there we have our 2019 graphs. So now we have all 6 charts done. We're going to go ahead and copy and paste them to the graphs worksheet. So I went ahead and removed the fill from the graphs and reformatted some of the colors on them by clicking on the chart area, format plot area, and then editing with the colors and the different things here. So I just went ahead, and then I went to page layout, and I added the background in by adding it right here. That instead of delete, let's say add background. Alright, so here's the finished product. We went ahead and added in titles for the years and each type of graph. So I also went to view and hid the formula bar, headings, and grid lines, so all you would see is the actual graphs. So we're going to go ahead and update the external data source. And here's my folder with the external data. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm pulling from the stats file, and we're going to go ahead and rename this one to 1, and we're going to go ahead and rename this one to stats, so that now it can pull from this other file. Now when we're in the Excel, all we have to do is hit the refresh button, and you'll see that the numbers changed, and then go to our pivot tables and hit refresh, and then you can see that some of the data shifted, and now our graphs are all updated. So really, to me, I find one of the most rewarding things is really reflecting back on something that I used to do and being like, wow, that was so crappy, and just seeing the progression that I've made over time. Alrighty, well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.